First of all, I'm real excited we're here. Since COVID, we talked about you doing something similar to this. I've said for a long time that, you have a great heart for coaches' wives, and you've got great experience with everything that from high school to college and everything that we went through. And I'm just excited that we're actually here and getting this journey started.
Yeah, I think so. Ooh, it's a little nerve-wracking, I'm not going to lie. So I'm excited. I think there's a lot of need and a lot of, missing pieces out there for coaches' wives. Yeah. And so hopefully we'll get into a groove, find a niche, and be able to fill it.
Yeah, well, think back when we were first getting started, I'm sure that experienced coach's wife, would have been great with some wisdom. We were a head coach, I guess, our second year, and we just kind of went with it through mistakes. And it's been a crazy ride.
Yeah, that was, I would say, lots and lots of mistakes. But, I think you've said it 1,000 times that we got to learn on the job. Yeah. And so there's some of that I'm very thankful for. But the truth is we did have older coaches that were pouring into us. Yeah. And helping us out and giving, little nuggets of advice here and there. So, I think it's a good thing. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Let me ask you this. So, what was it like when we first started coaching and we were in high school and, man, I was a workaholic and, wanted to win championships, wanted to do all that. We had our 2 girls and sometimes you were the Lone Ranger. I mean, what was it like for you?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's just go back to you took a job without me ever seeing the town that had a population of 1,900 people. So we
were desperate to get a job.
You were desperate to get a job. I was okay with you being a Centos truck driver for the moment. But when I arrived at the lovely little town and my mom came with us, we found a place. And it had all the cats and dogs and such in it. And it was kind of the only option in town to live in. I was a little overwhelmed, I'm not going to lie. But I was 22 years old. My goodness. I mean, if you look back, that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah, we moved into a trailer, single-wide trailer.
Not first. We moved into the house first. And then we moved into the trailer. Right. No, we moved into the house out with the mice. And then we moved into the trailer. We upgraded to the trailer.
Yeah, we did.
So, we did. We had a lot of fun moments.
Yeah. Then, of course, we moved to Northwest Arkansas. We went to Shiloh. And I was working from 5:30 to, dark, during the season.
I think it was a little later than dark. There were many days, if you remember, that the girls would wake up and you weren't there and go to bed and you weren't there. Because that was, they were little and those were their days. And I was thankful for the time. Kylie was second grade, I think, when we got there. And I was thankful for the lunchroom visits that you got to do with her because she was so excited she got to see Dad on campus, because we were in a small school that everybody ate in the lunchroom. So you were able to come through and, daddy-daughter date at the lunchroom.
Yeah. Well, of course, y'all came to practices.
We came to a lot of practices. That started in Hughes. Yeah. And going back to that, because we didn't really finish up that piece of it, that was a time that I learned, got to kind of a bitter place, probably year 3 of our whole career. Right. Whopping 3rd year. Just because I was alone and I was doing all of it by myself. And I was a little frustrated. And, I mean, looking back, I don't know how we were making it financially, but we were. And it was okay, but it was hard. And one of the things that I had an older coach's wife say, take the kids to practice. Make it something fun for the girls. And I kept thinking, I've got girls. It's not fun. But they loved it. Yeah. And they ended up taking great ownership in what you were doing. Mm-hmm. And by way of that, we ended up having a team mentality inside our home where we were working as a unit towards a common goal. And that kind of gave them an ownership and just something to look forward to in the afternoons. And goodness, it was good just to get them out of the house for me.
Yeah, and it was always special to me to see you on the sideline during the breaks and all that. And, you're exactly right. I think our players saw us as one, and that we were doing it together, and that was really neat. So, okay, so high school. All right, I was a head coach. I was an athletic director. Just talk to me about.
Don't forget about your awesome basketball coaching career too, that you had in there.
That was when we first started, though.
No, that was the first 8 years.
Yeah, right.
You were coaching basketball too.
I love that too.
So
right.
you common high school situation. You coach two different sports. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And because you moved into administration on your third high school job, you didn't have to do the second sport.
Right.
That was the thing.
So, we're sitting here. We did 15 years of high school, football and basketball. Okay, that you said, and AD. What advice would you give, a coach's wife that has a husband like me that's doing all that, that's wanting to coach at a championship level, that is
I don't know if I've got any advice. That's why I'm going to ask other women in here to talk with me. Because I don't know that I have any advice for them that would be useful. I have a lot of opinions about things, but I don't necessarily have advice.
Right. Okay. So we did 15 years of high school football, and then all of a sudden we went straight to college. Okay. So I'd like to hear from your standpoint, what's the difference between high school and college from a coach's wife standpoint?
I think the stage would be the only thing I could really point out.
I thought you were going to say the recruiting.
You know what, though? If you think about it, you worked enough hours. I mean, you being gone overnight was different.
Yeah.
But my long days didn't really change. It wasn't like that was a humongous change for me. The recruiting for me coming in, definitely a change. But the other side of that, I was already involved with other kids anyway. I mean, with our players anyway. So because I had those relationships and I was spending that time building those relationships with the parents, with the kids, that translated into the recruiting. So that wasn't a hard transition for me. The biggest thing for me was, I've said this to you 1,000 times. The difference in you and, John Doe at a corporation, your job evaluation is done in the papers and on TV every single weekend. Right. And you don't, while you can be accused of making a bad play call, which I might or might not accuse you of that every now and then, there is a lot of people in there that, you're depending on kids to make those plays happen. And you're depending on, children to do well in what you've taught them and perform well on a stage for you to get a good grade. Yeah. And so that's a piece of it that, that's hard to do sometimes.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, a lot of pressure in coaching college football. And
sometimes I think there was just as much pressure in the high school.
No, there was.
Because I'm going to tell you, for me, there was, because I was closer to the parents.
Right. Yeah. And I'll agree with that.
I get where you're going, but I'm going to tell you, on the side of those are the people you live with and you see at the grocery store every day.
Yeah. Where I was going with it, though, in college, I'm wrapped up in the next opponent. I don't listen to ESPN. I don't listen to the radio. But you and the girls, you got to hear all that stuff. And sometimes, there's, some good, some bad. How tough was those situations with you and the girls when things weren't going great and you had to listen to that?
How tough were those situations? I think experience over time helped because we learned as a family. And I think we learned that you had a pretty successful high school career. So we hadn't done a lot of the processing if you're losing. We really didn't get to experience a lot of that, thankfully.
Right.
But I do think when we got to the college ranks and got in that space, experience helped us teach us, don't engage, and you can't get too caught up in the highs or the lows. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the other side of it, we're going to take all the credit when everybody's praising you. Then we got to be able to deal with the, junk when they're not, and when they're criticizing and critiquing you. Yeah. So nicely.
Yeah. I remember when we got in college football, the one thing you told me, you said, college football is not going to change us. What do you mean by that?
Okay, how do I say this gracefully? We had experienced a lot of college coaches coming through. We had seen some things. Didn't want you to become dependent upon telling a story or promising a kid something that you could not produce, and not allowing it to change us to the core of what we were seeking to be, because we kind of set up our entire career around, teaching and mentoring, and it mattered what you were doing, and that it was truly you were who you said you were.
Right. Yeah, because you'd always say, we're going to be honest. We're going to be honest. We're not going to
watch your words. You can't promise
Yeah.
anybody you're going to be there forever.
Right.
You can't promise anybody that they're going to get playing time. You don't know that. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we learned that one the hard way the first year out.
Yeah.
So,
and you've always been kind of my accountability in a lot of different areas.
I'm not really your accountability. I'm just the loudest voice in your ear.
Yeah. Well, you keep me grounded. You never let me get too high.
Well, babe, know.
We won the national championship. I get on the bus. And
it wasn't in the bus. It was at the hotel.
Yeah.
After the family had left, I gave you time to celebrate on the bus and with the family. And then when everybody left, I just asked you why we only scored, what was it?
22 points. You went 22
I thought it was 22,
points.
but 21.
22 points,
22 points.
And
really?
They were pretty good. We almost scored a couple.
Okay,
we won the
but let's
national
go back
championship.
to what was Oregon known for? It was this high-powered offense. What was Auburn known for? High-powered offense.
Right.
Gus Malzahn. Woohoo!
Anyway.
And then what happened?
Right. So
Thank goodness for West Byram kicking that.
Yeah.
field goal.
But you kept me grounded. But you also were the biggest encourager for me in the biggest moments. And we lost the national championship almost in the last play of the game, and you were the one that helped me get through that. So the encouraging and keeping me grounded, it was a great balance, and that's always been the thing that sticks out to me.
That was an interesting night. I watched the games starting in Auburn. I watched the games alone in a room, and that night they found a green room where they had John Legend. He had sung the national anthem, and so he'd been in and out, and so they stuck me in there to watch the game, and I'm watching, and then I realized the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, actual minutes of the game, not the ticking of the clock, but they start pulling out our T-shirts that we're the national champions,
Yeah.
And a few minutes later, they're pushing those back in and pulling it, and they just, sorry, Miss Malzahn. And I'm like trying not to react because I got to be so bold. But yeah, it was a moment, and it was hard watching the kids and the coaches, but mainly the kids, the brokenhearted, the tears. Ugh, I don't, they work so hard. And I think that's the thing. People think of wives as being the fans. I think I would say we're encouragers. We're supporters.
I always say that you're the team mom, and we kind of do this thing together. You're the personality. I'm the boring person.
Now I'm old enough to be their grandmother. Let's just say the truth.
Don't
There's a lot of these kids
Don't say that.
Truly, their grandparents are about my age.
So, so we'll have a player, and you'll ask me, what's wrong with him? And, well, nothing's wrong with him, but, he's been playing good, and he's happy. And then I find out the next day that, Derek's got a girlfriend problem, and he's not doing well. I mean, how do you do that?
I think sometimes it's just me paying attention to what they're saying and doing. And, you're focused on a little more of the day-to-day outside, but I'm seeing a little more of the emotional. Or if you watch, kids will tell you what's going on. They'll tell you.
Yeah. All right. So you have a rule that when our players come over to our house, I can never talk football. Why is that?
Well, let's go back to why that started. That was one of those things. We have our players over by position. And the first year or two that we did it, it was very, it was rushed and crowded, and because we did it by offense and defense. So we broke it up and started doing by position. and gave me a little more time to talk. Well, the very question you just had a minute ago about how do you know, how do you do, it's because you get to know them and you know what's going on and you can see where there's a difference in what's happening. And so you not being able to talk football allowed me to encourage more of a day-to-day what's going on in your life kind of conversation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I would say that you talking about me being team mom and us doing this thing together and doing it as a unit, all these things have been a thread all the way through our lives. And then what happened last year?
Yeah.
What was last year?
Yeah. You talking about last year with everything or last year with you getting sick?
Well, I think all that ties together. So we started out, that we're in the process of moving and, we've had a life change and a career change, not really career change, a location change. And all of that always entails from my perspective, it's something that I've learned to give myself at least 9 months. It's like I'm giving birth to a new life in this new place. And, I need to figure out where my nail person and my hair person and my dog person and all the things are. And so we were just getting there because we moved here in March. I did. You came in February.
Yeah.
We were hired February 15th. And then I got here the end of March. And had some stuff with my mom happen just almost immediately in the middle of April.
Yeah. Then
we moved forward to September, October. Season kicks off. By game 3, pretty much half your team is injured.
Yeah.
Hello. That was a first for us.
Yeah. And then, the difference this year, you just said it like, your dad was sick. Your mom wasn't doing well. You had to attend to her. And you've missed how many games in 32 years before this year?
Between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Never really could figure out what the fourth one was, but I do feel like there's a fourth one somewhere.
And so you were gone the majority deal. It felt very weird for me.
Right.
Very weird. And then I ended up getting hurt. I mean, that's embarrassing. And it was a very challenging football season with, you just said, the injuries and all that. We finished strong. And then about a month after the season, you get sick. I mean, just out of the blue. You've never been sick. We've been married 32 years up to that point. You hadn't been sick. And all of a sudden,
33 years at that point, but go ahead.
33 years. And all of a sudden you got sick. And it happened so quick. And, there was 5 days in there that, I thought I was going to lose you. You could just tell by the doctors. Like, they weren't telling me, but I just knew it. It was the worst 5 days of my life, probably 6 days. Now that everything is done and you're healthy, I really look at it as a blessing that I've got the opportunity to see what life is out without you is like, and I didn't like it. It didn't, and it helps me. I hope it helps me in the future be a better husband, be a better person, be a better coach. And then there was a lot of thoughts during that time, like, man, if I didn't have you, I didn't want to coach. We do this thing together. That's who we are. And so really appreciate you more than ever because of that experience. And like I said, I'm excited for the next how many ever years we're going to coach and end it. And, I sit here and think about our journey and like, I wouldn't be half the coach I am without you. And it's not even close. And, it's just, for me to have you through this journey, through all the ups and downs. And I loved high school. We had a great time. And now we're in college, and we've experienced some of the highs and some of the lows of the lows, but we did it together. And like I said, you've always been that one to keep me grounded when I need to get grounded because everybody pats you on the back, tells you how great you are. But then, like we said earlier, the encourager. Like, you encouraged me. You're the only one that could have done it. I wouldn't have, other people are trying to. But when your wife does it, and it's different, like, because when you're a leader, and the head coaches, I don't care if it's high school or college, when you're a leader, it's lonely. It's lonely at the top, especially high-pressure jobs, and you don't have anybody to talk to. And you've been that person for me. And I know other coaches will say the same thing about their coach's wife. That's why I'm excited for you with this journey with all the different, coaches' wives you're going to be able to talk to. And that way, people can learn through their story. And so I'm real excited for you. And like I said, I've been probably for the last 2 years, you know, it's almost like I've been pressuring you, like, it's your moment. Like, you know, I've been a coach, 32, like, but you've got great influence, and you're a great person, and I'm just excited for you.
We've had some times in the past, and that was something that's kind of held me back, not wanting to go there, not wanting to put myself out there any further than I had to. And because at the heart of everything, I want to make certain that I'm a good addition to you, that I'm a helpmate, that I'm a completer, that I'm something that's positive for you rather than being something that's a negative side. And this past year, it has been. It's been hard. It got to a place where, you know, we had the grandbaby, and then we had my dad, and then we had, and your leg, all on the same day, basically. And the ups and downs of, you know, coming into a new program and not knowing anybody around and having to make relationships, building relationships. And you're right. It's a lonely space. It's lonely for the head coach, but it's also lonely for the head coach's wife. I mean, how many times have we talked about the fact that basically they all get together and have fun and they don't invite us? And I don't know. I do think it's kind of a drag for me because I'm a lot more fun than you are. And they would invite me, but they have to invite you if they invite me. So I take one for the team. I'm just going to say.
Yeah, you do.
But, you know, I think that loneliness and that realization was so intense for you during the sickness. You know, there was so much that you're seeing that my illness helped you see. But for me, I just went to sleep and woke up. You know, I didn't realize that it was, and I say went to sleep, in that when I was intubated, I didn't know that what was going on. And when I woke up, when I finally came to and was really there, it was kind of like, okay, what are we doing? Let's go home. And, you know, I was talking to some friends this last week, and just the idea of how fast I recovered, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, no doubt.
That it truly has been a miracle in and of itself.
It is.
But I think it was a moment where you started looking at me going, you know, do you really want to do this? Because it's okay if you don't. I'm okay to walk away if that's what we need to do, because you're what matters. Right. And I think panic kind of set in because we hadn't even talked about really getting to a place of truly having Gus Malzahn not coaching and it being retirement life. You have too much to give still. You have too much to teach. You have too much to do. You have too much energy, and you don't sit well. You're not still well. And, you know, I kind of need my mornings. Me and the dogs, we like our mornings just a little bit chill for just a minute. And I just don't believe the Lord's through with you in that arena yet. Right. And I feel like we'll both know it. I knew it when you were going into college. You had turned 40 that year. You had met every single goal you'd ever set for yourself. And we talked about every single one was done. Right. I knew it in my spirit. We're moving on. I didn't know where. I didn't know what. Right. But I knew that chapter had finished. And then it did. And look where it's gotten us now. And so I feel like I'll know. But I do feel like this is another chapter for us, for me, for the heart of what we really have always been about. Yeah. And that is pouring into, loving on, encouraging, and mentoring people as they're coming in behind us. At one time, I didn't realize that we were mentoring, but there's always somebody younger. There's always somebody older that you can learn from, and somebody younger that you can teach. Yeah. And if you're paying attention to those people around you, it's, you know, there's plenty of need. There's plenty of need. And I do see, you know, you're just now getting to a place where you can start looking around. And I've noticed you doing it lately, where you're starting to see some of the guys that you brought in, and I don't mean like you were the only one that did, but you saw them, brought them in, gave them opportunities, and poured it, for lack of a better phrase, you poured into them and gave them, you know, what they needed to go on and be a little more. Mm-hmm. And now they're doing the same for other people. And so it's kind of cool. We're just in that, what is it, hole 14? Because I refuse to say I'm on 15.
We're on the back nine somewhere.
No, we're in the back nine.
Yeah,
but maybe
we may be in the fairway of 15, something like that. Tee box.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking 12.
Okay,
Quit
12.
trying to rush us.
Okay.
But it is that thing of just finding a way to love on others.
What are you like? You're fixing to have these coaches' wives on. What are you looking forward to the most? As far as
I think hearing what their opinion, what their thoughts are, and what their experiences are, and seeing what their journey has taken them through, because everybody has a little different story, but everybody has a story, and so it's just a different path on how to get there, and it's going to be fun to see. We've got some cool people who have told me yes.
Yeah.
So it's going to it's going to start out with a bang, I think, and so we're going to get that one going. We're going to pull in some legacy type people, as well as just young coaches' wives who are already in the thick of it. And today's coaching world looks vastly different from what it looked like when we started 30 some odd years ago. Like completely different. Even in the high school ranks, it's different.
Right.
Kids, while they're not different, are different.
Yeah, more challenges for
There's
sure.
a lot more challenges.
Yeah.
And,
they didn't have social media when we first
didn't have social media when we first got into college.
We didn't know that.
Let's think about that.
Yeah, how about that?
Like,
you're really saying
MySpace had just started.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget 2009. I think it was 2009. And Twitter may have started 2008, but 2009 when all of our kids started getting on there, and I couldn't figure out what in the heck. And Coach's wife, Penny Graham, said, Kristi, it's like the ESPN ticker. It just keeps on new news all the time. New news all the time. Okay, I can get that. I understand that piece of it. So
But you're right. There's more challenges than probably ever before. And I think there's a need more than ever before that coaches' wives need to be encouraged. Because I think at the end of the day, y'all have a lot tougher job than we do as coaches. And I know in your case, in my case, that definitely holds true.
Well, I think for sure the woman behind the man is a big deal. Yeah. It is a big deal. And I would say when the wives are not happy, I mean, how many times have we talked about it? It affects the coaching room. It affects the coaches at their heart. If they know their wives are not happy or things are not happening well at home, it does affect what's going on, which then bleeds over into the kids, into the team, into the dynamics of the team. And so, at the heart of it,
no doubt,
we matter. Yeah. So I think we do have a matter. We do matter, and we have a role that's very important. So that's part of the. Yeah. I just would love for coaches' wives to love what God has called their family to, even if He has not called you into the day-to-day. For me, it was be as involved as I could, and to be as walking side by side with you as possible. Full-time job, kids, and my mom used to tell people, because we worked together, she and I, but she would say, and her husband is a full-time job as well. And it was the truth. Yeah. And so I think that's very real for a lot of people. Yeah. But to find a way, find what you're comfortable with, and to know that that's going to look different for everybody. Yeah. That's not something there's one set way for that. Yeah. But at the heart of it, that you are working in unison and working in unity with your husband. And I mean, let's just be honest. For coaches, y'all have books, videos. You've written one, put out a few. Yeah. And you always say, if you're proof, anyone can write a book.
No, there's no doubt. But I made seasoned English, can't spell a lick, and I wrote a book. Okay,
and you really don't have proper grammar, but we'll let that go. Truly, there's not as much for wives. There's not as much information. There's not as much in the form of a resource or encouragement or whatever. And that's what we want to be. We want to take what everyone hears on ESPN or whatever their station might be, the stories from the coaches or about the coaches, but tell you the stories behind the story of how they got there and what it looks like for it to actually take place. And come off successful and y'all looking like you
Yeah.
got it together.
Well, I think you're just the person to do that. And
You just wait,
I'm
babe.
excited to
and
watch.
And you love it, don't you?
I do.
When I say I'm telling the story, you just.
Hey,
Oh.
I've been encouraging you
What
for 2
what do
years.
we what do
this
we
moment.
know? That we don't have a lot of secrets, and we kind of what we
Right.
say. It's
Yeah. Well,
it-
you're
it's
going
the
to do
whole thing.
great. I mean, I'm excited to watch it.
Well, you're welcome for getting to be my first guest. Appreciate ya.
There you go.